persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. So members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Miss Reed. There. We lose Kay?
Good. Hold on.
So we'll come back to her. Mr. Yeomans?
Here.
Mr. McCusker?
Here.
Mr. Adams?
Here.
Ms. Biswas?
Here.
And staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Ms. Koshavos?
Here.
Mr. Berger?
Berger's here.
All right. So good evening. It is 7:14. I apologize for the late start. Had an issue with the link. Katrina, are you? Oh, there we go. Hold on. Okay, can you just respond that you can hear you?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I was waiting for a link.
Sorry, thank you. This open meeting of the Grafton Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted remotely, consistent with the legislative acts of 2021. Chapter 20, Section 20, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This meeting is convening via Zoom video conference as posted on the meeting agenda, which can be found on the Town of Grafton website. Please see the meeting agenda for details on how to participate remotely. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. All participation within this meeting will be visible to others. Accordingly, please be aware that other people may be able to see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording of this meeting, and that the recording may be published or rebroadcast at a later date. This meeting will feature public comment. To request acknowledgement to speak, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. The meeting administrator will enable you to speak when it is your turn. For those on the phone exclusively, the AV staff will coordinate with the meeting administrator to allow you to speak. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be done by a roll call vote. So I see, so I guess we'll just, on the agenda, the first item was case number 877 for 4 Gloucester Road, which was continued from a prior meeting. And Katrina, that has been withdrawn, correct?
Yes, she sent in an email that I gave to you guys,
Yep.
Requesting to withdraw without prejudice.
Brian, if I may interrupt,
Yes.
I think you have to appoint one of the alternates tonight, considering that Mary Ann is not going to be here.
Thank you, Bill. And as I'm sure you all know, this is my first meeting. So please, you know, if there's a step I miss or something, please don't be afraid to speak up and point me in the right direction or keep me on task. So for this meeting, is there an order to the alternates?
No.
No. So for this first case, why don't we appoint Ms. Biswas as a voting member?
Okay.
Does that need to be done by a vote or just?
Nope.
Okay.
You can just do it.
All right. So the first case will be number 878, 15 North Main Street for special permit. I'm actually going to recuse myself from this case. So for this case, we'll also appoint Mr. Adams as a voting member. And Bill McCusker is going to take the lead on this. I'm going to shut off my video and basically be in the audience. But I will hand it over to Mr. McCusker.
Yeah, so, Mr. Waller, I'm gonna appoint the two alternates just, to be clean about it, seeing as you're recusing yourself from this case. So,
Sure.
Katrina, you should note that, I'm appointing the two alternates, for this case. The next item of business is already misplaced. By the way, just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. All right, next item of business is case number 878, a request for a special permit to change a pre-existing non-conforming building or use, single-family mixed use. So at this time, I'll ask the board to introduce themselves. Start with, my name is Bill McCusker, member. Mr. Yeomans.
Bill Yeomans, member.
Ms. Reed.
Kay Reed, clerk.
Mr. Adams.
Peter Adams, alternate.
Biswas.
Natalie Biswas, alternate.
Our secretary.
Katrina Kochevo, secretary.
Zoning enforcement officer.
Bob Berger, zoning enforcement officer.
Mr. Belfiore, we should make sure that you can hear us and you can speak. Could you just acknowledge that you can hear us and speak, say hi or something?
Yep, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay. The way we'll proceed is the clerk will read the petition, and after the clerk has read the petitioner will have the floor and will have the opportunity to present their case. There'll be a 15-minute time limit for the petitioner. This time limit can be extended with consent of the board. The petitioner shall present required information, and all comments should be specific. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the petition will have an opportunity to do so. Any letters in favor will be read into the record. Actually, any letters in favor will be acknowledged at that time. Anybody in opposition will be allowed to speak, and any letters in opposition will be acknowledged. Opposition will also have a 15-minute time limit. After the evidence is presented, the board will enter discussion, hopefully come up with a decision. At any time during this hearing and prior to a decision being made by this board, the petitioner has the option to request that the petition be withdrawn without prejudice or continued until a later date, at which time additional evidence in favor of the petition can be presented. Anyone wishing to speak, as mentioned during the preliminaries, please use the raise hand function, and the chairman will acknowledge you and allow you to speak. For those attending strictly by phone, you should be able to coordinate with our AV staff to have an opportunity to speak. The board may ask questions from time to time. However, all conversations should be directed through the chair or through me. At this time, I'd ask the clerk to read the petition.
The Grafton Board of Appeals has received a petition from Steve Bellafiore for 15 North Main Street, North Grafton, requesting that the Zoning Board of Appeals grant a special permit change of use to change a pre-existing non-conforming building use from a single-family use to a mixed use. Map 27, Lot 21, Block 000. The board will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, November 4th, 2021 at 7 p.m. via Zoom conference to consider this request and or take whatever action is necessary, including the granting of a finding, special permit, variance, or other necessary relief allowed under the zoning bylaw. Copies of this application and plan are available for public inspection on the Town of Grafton website on the Zoning Board of Appeals page 40A page. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 2020 stay-at-home advisory, this meeting will be conducted via remote participation. The November 4th, 2021 meeting may be accessed via either the following means: Grafton Government Cable Access via Zoom, or dial by your location. Zoning Board of Appeals, Brian Waller, Chairman, Mary Ann DeRosiers, Vice Chairman, Kay Reed, Clerk, William Yeomans, William McCusker, Peter Adams, alternate, and Natalie Biswas, alternate. Case number 878, 2021, the Grafton News, Thursday, October 21st, 2021.
Thank you. I think we've gotten all the preliminaries out of the way. We've appointed our two alternates as voting members. At this point, I'd give the floor to Mr. Belfiore to explain to us what he wants to do.
Yep. Thank you. And thanks for meeting and allowing me to be in front of you guys. So we're looking, I wrote the letter. It states that 15 North Main Street, which is owned by 1012 Bridge Street LLC, which is the same owner as the Grafton Grill Building. We are looking to change the use of a residential current state right now with a residential one-family single house into similar of what our neighbors are within the area. There's a lot of mixed use within the area. Our neighbor right next to us has apartments upstairs and in the back, and then retail in the front. So we're looking to change it so that we could mix use that as well. And the way it's set up, you haven't been inside the building. There's two doors now, one on the side, which brings you into the living room, a kitchen, and a dining room area with 2 bedrooms and a bathroom upstairs with an office. And then the front door would bring you into 2 more rooms, another bedroom and a bathroom downstairs. So we're looking to split that up and allow mixed use as in business or retail of some sort, similar to what is in the area.
Okay, so in the case of when we're changing use like this, we have to kind of take a look at it from the point of view of if you were just coming for this use because it was allowed under the bylaw with a special permit from the planning board, that opens up the door for the planning board to get into a full site plan review. Planning board can waive pieces and parts of that, but really what they're looking for is to make sure that the site is consistent with the use. One of the big things that might be of issue is parking. But one thing I don't see at all here is any sort of a plot plan for this parcel. Did one get submitted, or do you have one?
We have one because we did renovate that building a couple years ago, but I don't believe I have access to it right now. I could send it.
Any ideas how many parking spots you have there?
Well, there's probably about 20 spots that you can park within that lot.
Did you just say that number again, Steve? It was muffled.
20.
20?
Yep.
Okay.
And then there's there's 2 public spots and a handicap spot in the front, which is public space for the public. So.
Okay. A question for Mr. Berger. What they're asking for is, what did it say? Seeking a special permit to change from single family to mixed use. Is that actually an actual use under our bylaw?
The only district that we have mixed use in right now is Village Mixed Use Group. And we're trying to, maybe in a year or so, adopt Village Mixed Use Group to incorporate some of these lots that Steve's talking about. But it's going to take a little bit of time.
So I guess I just want to make sure that we do the right thing. I think what Steve's trying to do is he wants to have some sort of retail in that building, and that's fine. So I guess I just want to make sure that if we give him a permit, that doesn't entitle him to, I don't know, do something drastically different than retail. So, I guess what I'm trying to do is understand is if we just say mixed use, is that a specific use defined by the bylaw, or should we be saying, convert it to retail use, or, you understand what I'm trying to say, Bob?
I do, and you're right, and you have to nail it down more, because Steve was parking let's say food truck in the parking lot, and he was selling ice cream and hot dogs. We do not have that use in our bylaw, so that use would be considered a restaurant. And now you talk about all that parking for the restaurant, which, you know, his parking won't support that. I'm just pulling all what you're talking about to put it in one piece in the puzzle. If you're going to open up a professional office, a professional office would need so many parking spaces per square footage, you know, with handicap and all that. And then when we get into mixed use group, we can't ignore that under the building code, that building now has to be sprinkled in between. You have to and then we need an evaluation on that, but just right off the bat, mixed use group from residential to commercial, that needs a fire suppression system installed in it, which is, quite a few dollars. And if I'm not mistaken, under village mixed use group, the planning board does a lot of special permits for that. I don't know how many are by right. That's what I have.
Well, if the intention is, just to have some sort of a retail store similar to what's nearby, a store to sell knickknacks, I don't know, even if it's a small grocery or that sort of thing, that's, I see that in the use schedule under business uses, retail establishment, serving convenience goods, local area, including unlimited grocery, delicatessen, bakery, supermarket, drugstore, similar uses, up to 5,000 square foot, or exceeding 5,000 square feet, so it seems like that's kind of what he's asking for. Other retail establishments, not sure what that would be. And there's personal consumer services, barbers, beauty shops, shoe leather repair, laundry, dry cleaning. But or is it establishment selling food, prepared for immediate consumption? So, in other words, restaurants, I guess. I mean, Steve, as I just rattled those things off, what do you think you want there, or is it still really kind of up in the air?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely up in the air, but I'm thinking like, hair salon, retail, there's a real estate office. It's got great visibility to the street. So you're not looking for a full boat restaurant. And also back to what Bob said about the sprinkler system. I mean, the current building that I'm in now with Grafton Grill is not sprinkled because it's under the size. So I'm pretty sure that we wouldn't have to sprinkle that building based on Grafton Grill's current state. We're not sprinkled here. So I'm almost positive with that. We went through that when we did the renovations at Grafton Grill. So, I mean, it's not going to be a full-fledged restaurant. You're not going to have, all this, 100 patrons going in there and tables and chairs. We're looking for similar to our neighbors. There's a dentist over there. There's a hair salon, a nail salon. I mean, the whole area, Bob mentioned, is Christopher, and I've been on many calls with the town, and they're trying to change the industrial zoning in this whole area to mixed village, which is going to change everything over here. And they want businesses all along the street. They have grants to put in new lighting, grants to put in new facades, facial stuff, facelifts on all the buildings. So I'm just kind of following suit of what they intend to do with this area. But no, it's not a restaurant.
Yeah, so,
but it could be
first of all,
something-
go ahead, finish up.
No, I was going to say it could be something small, like a coffee shop. I mean, that's more like 4 tables, and you would only need, for every 3 chairs, you need 1 parking space. And for every employee on shift, which would be probably 1, maybe 2, you need 2 spots. So you really only need technically 5 parking spaces.
So here's my concern. Well, first of all, as far as the sprinkler issue goes, that's between you and the building department. That does not come into play for the special permit here. My concern is I don't think that we can give you kind of this kind of a blanket change of use to mixed use like you've asked for. I think we have to be more specific. And, you know, I think we could say, you know, it's going to be a retail establishment. But then maybe that's not what it's going to be. You know, maybe you end up with a dentist that wants to move in. I don't know. So I'm kind of struggling with what we would actually be doing when we issue the permit, as far as, you know, what the use would be. And maybe we don't have to be, but, you know, I guess I'll defer now to our zoning enforcement officer. I mean, as a zoning enforcement officer, what do you want to see that's the special permit, this change of use special permit say?
He should ask for what he wants. He should know for what he wants. If he wants a coffee shop, change it to a coffee shop. If he wants a professional office, change it to a professional office. You don't have to tell us what's going in that professional office. Then that could leave him for an accountant, a realtor, any one of those professional offices. Wants a coffee shop, change it to a coffee shop. But I think you really have to put it in what category that he's asking for. That's my opinion.
Other comments from the board? Thoughts? Mr. Adams?
If he's got a plan, I wouldn't mind seeing it just to make sure of parking. You brought that up. And he also brought up that there's 2 handicap spots. And my question on that is the 2 handicap spots he was talking about on the Steve Roney town property? Or is there 2 handicap spots at that house?
There's one handicap spot on the Roney property or on the town property, but there's none where in my parking lot because it's not for public use yet. But I can create one. You know, if we put something in there, we would have to create a parking space and put it there. But yes, so there isn't one there now because there's no. It's a rental for residential right now.
But you're not planning on using the town property for parking?
I'm not, but anybody can use it if they want to. I mean, it's just like the common area where if they're going to the Grafton Country Store, they can use the common parking, which is owned by the town.
No, you're
But
right.
I wouldn't.
You're right.
Yeah, I wouldn't. So it would be their choice to park wherever they would be allowed.
But for
And
purposes of parking calculations, it would only be what's on Steve's property.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't calculate it in there. I'm just saying that there's plenty of parking around the area. There's parking for, you got the businesses next door and they find parking through the park that's up top. And they only have 3 spots in front of their retail location.
No, that's the only concern I have. And if you have a plan, you wouldn't have to have one done up. So it is. I have no problem with a business being there. It's a good place for it, actually.
Absolutely. Other comments from members of the board? Ms. Biswa?
I'd like to just echo what's already been said. I think mixed use is a little bit too broad and we kind of need to know what exactly is going to go in. A coffee hair salon, it's going to cause different traffic than an office that's going to just have one person come in the morning and leave in the evening. So that's just the only thing. I don't have an issue with a business being there. But I think maybe it's a little premature to come before us right now. Maybe a continuance makes sense here.
Other comments? Mr. Yeomans?
Yes, I have a couple of thoughts on this. The surrounding area, this particular zone that it's in is industrial, as is the building next door. And then as you go beyond the street that goes up that hillside, that's R20. I think Mr. Berger brings up a point that they're looking at this entire area. It seems to me that we should be looking at the entire area, that they're looking to improve that whole corridor of North Grafton. And that's been a focal point now for a few months, and it continues. So this is, to me, and it's a little bit like, spot zoning to this particular building. The other thing I have a little bit of a problem with is we're a board that deals with affordable housing objectives in the 40B. We're not a housing trust, but we deal with that aspect of it, trying to create affordable housing in this town. And I feel like that we're downsizing this. It's a residence now. It's a full house, and we're going to downsize it into an apartment with some yet to be determined business use. And I asked Steve directly, is it the intention to have an ice cream parlor there? I know that was successful in the summer months. I think, the cart that you had out there, or the trailer.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I don't want to get into that whole side of it, but possibly, yes. I mean, there's things that I would like to do with it myself, but then there may be some other things that I'm working on that would allow me just to rent it to somebody else and let them do something. But yes, but when we get into the ice cream business, then you're starting talking about food, and as Bob said, you're going to start talking about restaurant and chairs and tables and parking, and so it could be a bigger conversation. But yes, there is a chance that I might do something like that. But currently, right now, as Bob mentioned, so the hard thing about this whole area is, again, it's industrial. This whole zoning area in North Grafton is very challenging. I, as a restaurant owner and a business owner, have to come in front of you guys every time and spend more money than most businesses do in town to get in front of you guys to ask for an addition, or to ask for something, to change something in front of my restaurant, to put a patio in or something like that. Whereas other businesses, because they're in the general business zone, do not have to do that. So it's hard to get in front of you and then get around, to get to you guys, because obviously I've got to go through the building department first. But I was, with changing the mixed use, the intention of the whole thing is to allow the ice cream shop to continue selling on the property as a business use and a residential use, just like my neighbors have, a mixed use. And that's what it says. I'm looking at their, my next door neighbor, his use code is 0310. And it's pre-dom com C, which I have no idea what that means. But it's mixed use because it's residential and commercial in the same building. If I could get mixed use, or however we want to call it, it would allow the ice cream business to continue, and then maybe once it built up, I could move it into there. But I cannot sell on the property as is because the use is residential.
Bill,
Mr. Chairman?
Bill.
Bob, excuse me.
Mr. Berger, I guess I'd ask you, Mr. Berger, what does he need to, what does he need to be able to have an ice cream truck on that property the way he did this summer?
See, that's where this all started. We don't have a bylaw that has for these food trucks, and in our bylaw, if it's not spelled out, it's not allowed. So I would say the food truck, the way it's driving around or just sitting there, is not allowed because we don't have that category. We're talking about that category of adding something, but we don't have it. But let's just say that we wanted to consider the food truck as a restaurant, then it would need to have particular parking, and it would most likely need to have some sort of review, like a site plan through the planning board, or through, I know, because it's pre-existing non-conforming, through the zoning board of appeals. So that's the sticking point that we have right now with the food truck being there because, you know, Steve first wanted to do it, if I'm not mistaken, on 5 North Main. And 5 North Main, we couldn't do that because that lot is undersized. And in our zoning bylaws, if it's an undersized lot, it can't be built upon. And then again, we don't have the food truck regulation and then traffic going in and out of that little lot. So this is where our sticking point is right now, is the food truck.
So let me ask you this, just Ms. Biswat. How does that hot dog stand operate on Worcester Street?
The hot dog stand on Worcester Street, I think was a little bit before my time as commissioner. I think it was Ron. And they used to be located in front of Wyman Gordon's a long, long time ago, where they had parking pulling in off the street. Don't know how that got there, but the one by the hot dog stand you're talking about now, they have parking in that commercial parking lot.
But
I know.
you just said it's not allowed.
It's not allowed in our zoning. Now, what did the select board do? I'd have to research that. Did they give them that license to sell? I don't know. That's something that I would have to look into.
So, all right. So even if we gave him right now a change of use to, you know, residential and retail establishment or even dining. I mean, let's just say we changed it so it could have gave him the change of use so that he could have a restaurant in that commercial space. Right. Put all the other issues aside, parking, all that sort of stuff. If we did that, what I'm hearing you say though is that still wouldn't allow him to have that ice cream truck. Well, wait a minute. Look, if he parks the ice cream truck in his own parking lot, the Grafton Grill parking
in his
lot.
parking lot, in his restaurant.
Yeah.
I told him to do that.
I think it's parked there now, actually. But
I told him to do that. I said that's your best way out right now is park it in your restaurant parking lot. It's off hours. It's when the restaurant's not open. They pull in. They get their hot dogs, their ice creams, and they leave.
it's, you know, wow. I had no idea this was going to become something like that. I mean, because you know. Go ahead,
Can I
Steve.
just say something? Why wouldn't I be able to sell ice cream in my own parking lot when I'm open, as long as I have enough parking for everybody?
That's fine. I didn't go there.
Yeah, so I don't have to do it when I'm closed, because
No, but that's
not-
you know, that's the way it was
So
working.
it's the same zone here and across the street. So if we change the use over there so why wouldn't I be able to use the ice cream truck in the parking lot? It's not a permanent thing. It moves, it's mobile. It's not there all the time. It's a mobile food truck. It doesn't require a bathroom. It doesn't require any of those normal things that a restaurant would. And if it was mixed use, then I should be able to use it as a mixed use piece of property, because you told me the use right now is residential, and that's why I can't be on that property.
The use is residential. And Bill, what I think we should do, or I think what I should do, no, I'm not telling you what you should do. I think I should get an opinion from council on.
Well,
on
yeah,
what we
hang on a
do.
second. So, time out. So I'd like Ms. Biswa to speak. She's had her hand up.
I think I just wanted to ask a question, and I don't know. I mean, when we do special permits for a change in a structure, there are conditions that we need to meet. What are the conditions for changing a use? Is it the same? Is it different? Am I looking at 1.5.5 of our bylaws? Is there anything in particular that we need to consider for a change in use? Because if it's parking the ice cream truck, then, and that we can count that as a restaurant, then I'm not sure what, yeah, okay, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, so it's still done under 3435, pre-existing non-conforming structures or uses may be extended, altered, changed only per special permit. And essentially that's what oftentimes is referred to as the a Chapter 48, Section 6 finding. So it's still under 3435. And what we've been advised, and this goes way back to when Chengdu was going to redo the old Klondike, is that somewhere the change will not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use. Under those words, it kind of opens the door for us to do pretty much the full boat site plan review if we wanted to, that the planning board would do when it issues a special permit for some use. So, you might think we're kind of backdooring in what the planning board would normally do, but it's really not. I mean, it's kind of clear. It's not more detrimental. For example, parking, right? If he wanted to open a restaurant there and he needed 40 parking spots but only had 10, that would be something that would be more detrimental to the neighborhood. So I think that's what direction we go. So we do it under 3435. That not detrimental opens the door for quite a bit, and that's what we've done. And actually, I want to circle back to what Mr. Yeoman said about the spot zoning. The bottom line is our bylaw allows us to do this. Our bylaw allows Mr. Belfiore to ask for it. So, we have to hear it. Whether it's spot zoning or not, we have to hear it and we have to treat it appropriately. All right. So at this point, we started getting into a conversation, and I can't help but feel should be happening in the development team meetings in town hall during the week. Seems to me that really the thing to do is Steve should go in, sit down with the development team, talk through what he wants to do. Bob, if you need to get opinion from council, then you listen to what Steve has to say, get opinion from council, come back, and then really have Steve come back to us with, kind of agreement within the building. This is what I want to do. This is what the zoning enforcement officer says I need, and then we can act on it. And I'll say to Steve, my sentiment, just listening to a few members, I think we're in support of you doing something with that property, doing something retail like the rest of the neighborhood. Sounds like the town wants to go in that direction with the village mixed use. You're just out ahead of that. So I think we get there, but I don't want to do it wrong, and that's not going to do you any favors if we do it wrong. I think it's just a case of let's try and kind of tighten up what it is we're trying to do here. And I'd be perfectly fine with continuing this, and maybe we continue it for 6 months until you figure out exactly what you want to do. This way, you don't have to pay another fee and advertise and all that nonsense. We just continue it till you guys can kind of get together and decide what you want to do. And by you guys, I don't mean just you, Steve. I mean you and the other folks in town hall, with Bob and whoever else, decide how to handle it. Maybe even the selectmen need to get involved. If they need to issue some sort of a permit so you can have the ice cream truck there, then whatever. But it just seems like a lot of this should be worked out in the building first before we act on it. That's my thoughts. Bob, what do you think of what I just said?
I'm good with that. I think it makes sense. Have us all virtually sit around the table.
Yeah. Other comments from the board? Oh, go ahead, Steve.
So I'm totally 100% in agreement with you. The only thing I have a problem with, and I just want to make sure this goes on record, is every time for the last 4 years I've been working with the building department, they shoot me down right away. And to get on this call tonight, I had to really fight for it, and I don't understand why. So I have no problem working with anybody. I'm not looking to do anything other than just grow the business and please Grafton. But I don't see why I have to battle to get in front of the ZBA if that's my only choice that I have. And it literally is a fight to get in front of you guys, just saying. So I want to make sure, I 100% agree. I will do the right thing. I will bring a presentation. I'll show you what I want to do. But I just hope that the town allows me and not just shuts me down. That's all.
Yeah,
Can you still hear me, Bill?
I don't have much to comment other than to say that, you can fill out an application and submit it without anyone having any approval or anything like that, right? I mean, so, but the right thing to do is to work it through the town, and I can't speak to how people are what they're saying to you. I'm not a part of that, but, you know, I think it would be best in this case to work with the development team, go in and meet with them and talk through what you want to do and then go from there. And come to an agreement with what's the best way to proceed. And by that, I mean, you know, what exactly is it? A change of use to retail, to dining, to whatever it is, you know, and, you know, you need a permit from this people, you need a permit from that people, whatever. Mr. Yeomans?
No,
Okay.
can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I just have a brief question for Mr. Berger. There's a study going on, or it was going on, for that entire corridor in North Grafton. Is that still being studied? The select board is involved, the planning department is involved in that. Should this be a wider scope to take what Steve wants to do and incorporate it into that study?
No, we're looking at taking that whole area and changing to village mixed use group. That's what we're trying to do right now.
Okay,
And Bill, I was involved in that. I was on many calls, probably 3 of them, with the planning board, Chris and his team with
okay.
yeah, so I have been involved in that, and this has come up many, many times. And that was one of my challenges when they asked me what my challenges were. I brought that up, that we just never get a chance to talk about a plan because we always get shot down at the building department first.
Steve, that is not true, and I'm not going to get into that here.
Yeah, don't. But, you
I'm
know,
not
you
going
guys.
to. I'm not going
I'm
to.
not.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I understood that I could come in front of you guys at any time, and that's all I asked.
Right, but the right way, Steve, and this has been going on for a few years, and it seems to be working well for many other people, is they have these what they call development team meetings. They're weekly. I can't know when exactly they are, but Katrina certainly should be able to work with you to get you on the agenda. And you go in and you sit down and you meet with, I don't know if they do it virtually or in person, but
I've
you
been,
go in and meet with them and, yeah.
I've done it
and
3
talk
or 4
through it.
times, but yes, I will do it again.
Okay.
They have
Okay.
them on Thursdays.
And I think my sense is from the comments I've heard from at least a few of the members is we're supportive. We just want to do it right. We just want to do it right. We don't, you know, if we give you retail and then it turns out you need something else, and you know what, now you're going to have to come back to us and, you know, let's just figure it out, get it done right, you know, and we can go from there. So I don't see any hands up from the public. Katrina, was there any communication received, pro or for or against?
No, nothing from the neighbors, and I got 3 comments, one from police, one from fire, one from Board of Health, that they had no comment at all.
Okay. Ms. Beeswax.
On that note, if it's possible to get a letter in support, I think that could help as well. Just a thought.
From?
Any, like a neighbor or something that's in support of whatever Mr. Belfiore wants to do.
Okay. All right, so we need to continue this, Mr. Adams.
Does anybody know why the last 2 pages are about 21 North Main Street instead of 15?
Those are in there as an examples because their use is the similar use that I'm trying to do.
Okay, well, the next time, put 15s in there too.
But it should be in there. I don't know. I
No.
thought I sent it.
It's just 21.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's all right. It confused me a little bit.
Yeah, you're right. I don't have 15 either. So I think what Mr. Belfiore, you need to do is request a continuance to our next hearing. I don't know that we have anything scheduled at this point for our next hearing. Katrina, do we have any new cases pending?
We don't have any new cases pending, but 244 Worcester Street is also asking for a continuance.
Yeah, that's fine. So if something came in tomorrow That's the 5th. 60 days would be
January.
early January. Should we just schedule a meeting for like January 6th? Thursday, January 6th? We'll do a continue this case until then?
I'm good with that date.
It's possible we may have a meeting before then if Fisherville does an NPC that I've heard they're threatening to do, because we'll have to work on that within 30 days. But, for 48 cases, if we don't have anything, then let's just push out to January 7th. And if it's the only thing on the agenda, January 7th is Steve, and they're not ready to move forward yet, then it'd be easy to continue it again.
That's
It
January.
looks like you were looking or thinking about something. You see any problem with January 7th?
January 6th is the Thursday.
6th.
January 6th, yeah. Mr. Belfiore, is that you agree? You want to ask for a continuance?
Yes, please.
Okay. So at this point, I need a motion to continue case number. What is this?
878.
878. So a motion to continue case number 878 to January I keep saying
So moved.
7th, but it's
Second.
January 6th, 2022 at 7 a.m. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
AM or 7 PM?
Huh?
You said 7 AM. Do you mean 7 PM?
I meant 7 p.m. I don't know. I didn't realize I said 7 a.m. I won't be there at 7 a.m. Any discussion? Hearing none, we need to do a roll call vote. Mr. Yeomans?
Yes.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Biswas?
Yes.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
And Mr. McCusker votes yes. So we'll continue this until January 7th, and hopefully Belfiore can get together with the building department and others and see if we can't come up with a plan to move forward with this. All right. Mr. Waller, get back here. Take over,
Okay.
please.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Bill, I can take off, right?
Yeah, you're done. Thanks, Steve.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, so the next order of business is case number 879, 20 Brielle Road, seeking a variance for a shed. Let's see. So do I read the rules of order again?
I'm sorry?
Do I read the rules of order again for each case?
Yeah, we do, although I can see that the applicant was there. If he's okay with not reading the rules, or procedures, I think that's fine. We haven't seen anyone.
That's fine with me. All right, I will just reiterate one piece of it, that after all the evidence is presented, the board will enter into discussion and render a decision at any time during this hearing and prior to a decision being made by the board. The petitioner has the option to request that the petition be withdrawn without prejudice or continued to a later date, as you just saw happen. At which time the petitioner could provide additional information favorable to their application. With that said, Ms. Reed, could you please read the petition?
The Grafton Board of Appeals has received a petition from Christopher Schonhoff for 20 Brielle Road, North Grafton, requesting that the Zoning Board of Appeals grant a variance from section 3.2 of the Grafton zoning bylaw for the construction of a shed on a pre-existing concrete pad on the property within the setback, 1 foot 1 inch and 1 1 foot 9 inch off the side setback, requesting a variance of 13.9 and 13.1 respectively. Map 53, lot 117, block 000. The board will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, November 4th, 2021 at 7 p.m. via Zoom conference to consider this request. Copies of the application and plan are available for public inspection on the Town of Grafton website. The November 4th, 2021 meeting may be accessed via either the following means: Grafton Government Cable Access, via Zoom conferencing, or dial by your location. Zoning Board of Appeals, Brian Waller, Chairman, Marion DeRozier, Vice Chairman, Kay Reed, Clerk, William Yeomans, William McCusker, Peter, members, Peter Adams, alternate, and Matali Biswas, alternate. Case number 879, 2021, the Grafton News, Thursday, October 21st, 2021.
Thank you. So entertain a motion to open the public hearing for case number 879.
So moved.
You can just open it. You can just open it.
No. Okay. So we'll skip the vote on that. So we'll open the public hearing on this case. I'll turn the floor over to the petitioner. You have 15 minutes to present your case.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present my application for variance. I don't know if the board has had a chance to look through the application.
I'm sorry. Can I just interrupt you for 1 second?
Yep.
So for this case, I'll appoint Ms. Biswas as a voting member in place of Ms. DeRozier's.
And also, speakers need to state name and address for the record.
Sure. Chris Shanoff, 20 Brielle Road.
All right.
All right.
Sorry about that. Please continue.
Okay, so thanks again. So I don't know if the members of the board have had an opportunity to look through the application. From my understanding, I have to present conditions that need to be met for the granting of this variance. And so I tried to do that in my letter. I don't know if you guys have had you folks have had a chance or not. I'll try to, I don't know if it's worthwhile reading word for word the letter, but I'll try to hit the highlights here. So I've lived on 20 Brielle Road since December of 99, so 21 years. Before we built the house, there's actually a concrete pad, which I think you guys have a copy of the plot plan that is in my backyard. And so the first condition that needs to be met is this idea that there's a cleared hardship. So I decided to build this shed on this pre-existing structure, this concrete pad. And so, you know, it's the best place in the backyard to build it. It's, you know, it's not feasible for me to move that concrete pad. There's wetlands towards the back of the lot. And so it really was the best place to put it. So I've had additions put on the house. The building department has been out at the house, you know, different times over the years, and no one has ever made any mention of this pre-existing structure. So at any rate, that's where I'm hoping to be able to build this small 10 by 10 shed. So that's the first one about the hardship. If I go through the second condition, it states the condition affecting my property is incidental to that property and not generally affecting other parcels within your zoning district. And so my statement there is that this concrete pad, the pre-existing structure, lies entirely on my property and no way affects other parcels in my zoning district. The third condition that must be met is that the variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. It goes on, no rights of my neighbors are infringed upon. And I should really stress that all the direct neighbors, my one next door neighbor on Brielle Road and the two right on Rose Lane, I've spoken with all of them. None of them have any problems with me putting a shed there. In fact, the two direct abutters on Rose Lane both have sheds on their property that are well within the 15 feet setback as well. So none of the neighbors are in opposition to the building of the shed. And so then the last condition is about the variance cannot substantially derogate from the intent and purpose of the bylaw. And I state the fact that, due to the fact that there are other sheds, direct abutters that are not within that 15-foot setback, that I argue that, granting of this variance on my property wouldn't be a problem as well. So those are the highlights I have from trying to talk about or address the conditions that need to be met. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I'm obviously looking to be in full compliance, and I'm respectfully asking that this variance is granted.
Thank you. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of the application?
Actually, you want to ask a discussion on the board first.
Okay, any discussion from the board? Ms. Bizwas?
Just a quick, so to understand, the shed is going right on the concrete pad. It's not it's within that same footprint.
Yeah. The concrete pad, I think on the plot plan, it's right around 11 by 11, and my hope was to build a shed that's 10 by 10. It's going to go right on this concrete pad.
Thank you.
Was there previously a shed on that pad?
My understanding is that one of the people on Rose Lane originally had their shed there, and when I built my house, they moved their shed onto their lot and left the concrete pad there. So that, yeah.
Interesting.
Yep. Oh, I don't have.
Mr. McCusker?
Yeah, so a few things. All right, so the pad was pre-existing before you bought the lot. And so it does make a kind of a unique situation. Regardless, I think this is a classic case we've talked about before. There really isn't the full requirements for a variance, and we got another guy here who's trying to do everything correct to be able to have a shed, and the town is clearly lacking in its bylaw, not allowing for accessory sheds like this closer to the property lines than we currently allow. So in my opinion, no, he doesn't meet the letter of the law, as most variance requests don't. But I think we just need to. I think we need to just let it go. That being said, I do, Mr. Chairman, do you want me to assemble findings like I've typically done in the past?
So if you, yes, and actually I'll do them at the same time. But if you want to step through those, actually.
Yeah, so with that in mind, what zoning district were we actually in? I don't see it documented here anywhere, and I'm wondering if anyone knows.
Agricultural residential.
Yeah, that's not going to work. It's got to be R20 or R40, I think.
I think it says R8 on the map, which I don't know what that is either.
It's agricultural.
Wow.
Is it agricultural?
R8 is agricultural.
Yeah.
Same setbacks, but it's agricultural.
Oh, so it's R8.
That's what the chair just said. It was R8. My computer won't tell me what it is right now. It's down.
That's what it is on the assessor's map.
Okay.
Wow. Wow.
Seems like that farmer grew a lot of houses there.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't that make this a non-conforming?
It could be a flexible subdivision too.
Oh God. All right. R8. The side setback is 30 feet, and you're looking to have this shed 1.1 foot off. Is that correct?
The side setback is 15, I believe.
Yes, I'm sorry, 15 feet.
In the rear
And to
setback.
the applicant. Yeah, but this is only affecting the side setback. And if I'm reading this plan correctly, you want to have the shed 1.1 feet off the sideline for the applicant.
That's where the concrete, the pre-existing structure is.
Okay. 15, and so 1.1 feet off the sideline.
Like I said, those two direct abutters on Rose Lane both have sheds that are probably in a similar distance away from my lot line.
Yep, I know. Them in half the town. Right, and then, all right, let me work on some wording for a hardship of some sort here.
I have a
That's all I
question.
have for the time being.
Yeah, Mr. Yeomans.
Yeah, in looking at the engineering plan, it mentions a drain easement. Could you just comment on that easement?
I couldn't comment. I don't know. I would imagine Mr. Berger could probably talk about that better with I mean, if you go way back in the back of my backyard, there's a swampy area there. But that's probably 150 feet back from there. But I don't know if that has anything to do with a drainage easement. I really don't. I'm not a landscape engineer.
Trina, can you pull that up?
The drainage easement isn't on the GIS map. Do you
No.
want the,
Katrina, I don't know if I'm allowed to share screen. I can bring the
Yep.
plot plan up on mine, I think.
I can have you.
Okay,
All right, you should be able to share, Chris.
let me see.
If not, I can get in and get it too.
Yeah. Can everyone see that?
Yeah, make it bigger. Make it bigger, please.
Yeah, hang on. Is that all right, Bob?
Yeah, so the problem that you could have right now is somebody has to read that easement. And if there's nothing allowed on that easement, then that will be a problem. So the easement goes from front to back. And that would be on the deeds.
Chairman?
Do you see that, Bill?
Yeah. The question I have, if I may, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the question I have in looking at that drainage easement, it looks as though it stops and right at that concrete pad. So, you know, I don't know what, it doesn't continue. It doesn't show the easement going all the way out to the street.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so perhaps it's just, if that's a swamp back in the point of your lot, it could be just a drain that is coming off to take care of some of these side lots, the houses that were built. But that pad does not seem to interfere. The only thing I'd be concerned about is, moving the pad. I would prefer to see it right where it is, rather than having the potential for disrupting whatever that easement. But I think, it's a shed. I think if that easement had some condition on it that required excavation, then as I understand it, the easement would take precedent over your shed.
I can keep that up there if you want. I just wanted to
No, I'm fine.
see if there are other comments.
So I just pulled up the deed on the registry of deeds, and there's nothing in his deed that mentions that drainage easement anywhere.
Okay, then it's,
Chairman?
Mr. McCusker?
Yeah, so, if there's an easement, drainage or otherwise, that, prevents the shed from being located there, that's really not relevant to this proceeding. In the context that we're talking about right now, what was actually happening here was there's an easement, on this half of the property, which forces me to move the shed to this other half, which puts it into the other setback. Then that easement actually could be used as a reason, part of the unique conditions owing to the shape, topography, soil condition. But that's not the case here at all. He's not using it. Matter of fact, he's actually in the easement. So, if the easement says he can't have a shed there, that's between him and whoever owns that easement, not this board in this situation. So that's something he needs to deal with. If it's like my property, I have a drainage easement. I just need to be aware that at some point the town could come in and dig up my property to maintain a large drain pipe that goes along the edge of my property. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe it's something similar where he just has to
Understood.
be able to provide access to the town or others to be able to, maintain drainage or something.
So I see Brian McEwen, hand raised. Do you have something to add?
Yeah, through the chair. I just sitting here listening to it while I was waiting to come up on the Providence Road Commons. We did the street acceptance plan for that project to close that project out on Brielle Road. I just took a look at the record definitive plans for that subdivision, as well as our record plan for street acceptance by the town. And there was no easement indicated for that lot. And that would stand to reason that it's not cited in Mr. Shanoff's deed as well.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. All right, so it sounds like we can ignore the easement, or
I agree.
it is an easement. It doesn't seem to be relative to the location of the pad. Is there any other discussion from the board? I know, Bill, you're still.
Brian, is there any other letters in favor or opposed, or does anyone got their hand up or anything like that?
Fire and Board of Health both had they submitted that they have no comments. They're fine with it. That's the only thing we received.
Trina, out of curiosity, when we talked about this, it may have been 2 years ago, about a potential change to the bylaws to be more comparable to area towns in terms of the setbacks for sheds. Do you recall what those were? Was it
So
five?
I was tasked to find out other towns' bylaws, and the only one that really has one was Westboro, and then I'd have to go through all the stuff I have. Joe Layden and I were working on it, and then Joe left.
5 feet. 5 feet.
5 feet?
5
5
feet.
feet from the property line is what I've been trying to advocate.
Okay. So this would have still needed to come before us in any event.
All right, so this is what I came up with for findings. I have a finding F1, parcels located in the R8 zoning district. A finding F2, the R8 zoning zone requires a 15-foot side yard setback, and the structure is located 1.1 feet off the side lot line. Finding F3, the lot has wetlands in the back that preclude a shed location there. Finding F4, the lot had a concrete pad pre-existing before the current house was built. Finding F5, moving the shed to a different location would incur additional expense, including the removal of the concrete pad. Based on findings F3 and 4, which are the wetlands in the pad, we find unique conditions incidental to the lot. Based on findings F1 through F5, those are the ones I read, we find a hardship exists owing to the unique conditions of the lot. Finding 6 would be that sheds are commonplace in residential neighborhoods. I actually should say, yeah, I'm just going to say residential neighborhoods. And so based on finding F6, we find a variance would not derogate from the intent and purpose of the bylaw. All of these are a stretch, would never stand up in court, but that's what I have for findings.
And I would agree with those. Based on those findings, is there any further comment from the board? Okay, so if there's no further comments, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing on case number 879.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. We'll take a roll call vote. Do we have to do a roll call vote on the motion to close the hearing?
Yeah, because of the because we're doing it by Zoom, everything has to be roll call.
So we'll take a roll call vote on the motion to close the public hearing on case number 879. Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes,
Mr. McCusker,
Yes.
Ms. Biswas,
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. So let's see. There's no further discussion. Entertain a motion to approve the grant of a variance to the applicant for case number 879.
so moved.
Second.
Motion made and
So
seconded.
I think we need to be a little bit more specific than that. And then also, do we want to make it subject to the picture? We call that Exhibit A. We usually do that, right? So you know, it would be this. You know, you guys can't see that, but it would be the drawing that was submitted. So I think it would be the the legal motion, the legal notice, as depicted in Exhibit A. Something like that, I think, is what we want to do.
Okay. So it would be a motion.
I amend my motion to include Exhibit A and the legal notice pertaining to this request for a variance.
For a second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. We'll take a roll call on the vote to grant a variance incorporating the legal notice and Exhibit A, the proposed shed drawing or plot plan. Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes,
Mr. McCusker,
Yes.
Ms. Bizwas?
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. The motion is passed. Let's see. So there'll be a 21-day appeal period. And then after that, the official decision, and Katrina, correct me if I'm wrong here, can be picked up, or actually it has to be signed after the 21-day appeal period.
So I have 14 days to write the decision and get it filed with the town clerk, and that's going to be good in. After it's filed with the town clerk, there's a 21-day appeal period where at that time, Chris, you pick it up and bring a copy to the building department along with your building permit application or your zoning application for the shed, and they'll issue you the permit, you can build the shed.
Katrina, I think I missed that. Did you say recorded with the Worcester deeds?
Yes, I
Oh,
said
she
he's
did.
got to pick up this, I did not. You got to pick up the certificate of appeal from the town clerk, record it with the registry of deeds, and then bring the copy back to me. A copy back to me.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot that part.
And that part about recording it at the registry is really pretty important. You want to make sure you do that.
Because
Katrina,
that way,
will you-
Chris, if it's not recorded with the registry of deeds and anything ever happened to that shed, you'd have to come back because if not you, another owner, that way it's recorded that it's already there and it's okay. Make sense?
Will you shoot me an email summarizing everything you just told me?
Yep, I'll do it in the morning.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. So the next order of business is Providence Road Commons. I believe this is to accept the final as-built plans.
So a side note on Providence Road Commons, they never had a bond of any sort. No tri-party, no surety. What they do have is a bank account with $50,000 sitting in it, which was held. So that bank account is still there. I went back and forth with Brian, who's
Peter Maloney.
with Peter Maloney. He found the money. It's sitting in Commerce Bank since they opened it like 15 years ago. So once everything gets released, then and we sign a letter, but there is no bond. It was a checking account with $50,000 in it. Just to let you know.
Was that, I guess, why was it done that way at the time? Why was there a bond? Any idea?
That was before my time. I don't know.
Was that called a cash bond?
I think.
I mean, was it Town of Grafton's name on it or ZBA?
That I don't know. I'd have to check with Peter, but there is as far as I know, he checked and there's a bank account.
Okay. So with
And
that,
Amy, and I will say, Amy, the treasurer collector, before she left, I had checked with her. She said she did have records of a bank account that had $25,000 for conservation. So Peter looked into it. There's actually $50,000. It was held for conservation and for ZBA.
so are we being asked to release that bank account?
Brian, that's it. That's a you question.
Well, actually, we're looking to basically get a complete sign off that everything has been constructed and completed as per the approved permit as well as the approved plans. So we've submitted the as-built plans and associated documentation. Now I know there's some paperwork that was being done by Peter Maloney, who is the manager for the project. I believe that's all been taken care of. So we're basically looking to get this release taken care of, and I don't know how it gets handled by your board so that Providence Road Commons, the developer who did the project, can finally move the last unit, and that's probably why the cash account was set up, is that they held basically the last unit until you guys approved that everything was completed in conformance with the plans and the decision. They cannot sell that last unit until that's released, until it's released from you guys. How you guys word it or document it, I'm not sure if you've got any template or protocol that you've done before on any of your previous 40Bs.
So before we get to that step, so if I recall correctly, there were still a few outstanding items last time you were here.
Yeah, and I submitted the photos of the work that needed to be taken care of. The streetlights have been installed and turned on. The hydrant has been cleared at the corner of Luca Drive, the north Luca Drive entrance. The sinkhole along one of the retaining walls, that's been dressed off, loamed and seeded. Obviously, the seed hasn't taken. And the riprap up at the outfall from the golf course has been reinforced with larger size riprap.
Chairman?
Mr. McCusker?
So as I recall, there were some outstanding issues, and we wanted to get those addressed. And in my mind, addressed means Graves tells us these things are done. Now, I'm aware that some pictures arrived shortly before this meeting, but I got to be honest with you, I don't know what I'm looking at. So that's why we have Graves. We have peer review professionals who can say that riprap is the way it's supposed to be or whatever. So, you know, my expectation was that whatever it was that was still outstanding would get completed, and then we would get something from Graves saying, yeah, all done. And we did communicate with Jeff offline just a couple days ago, and he hadn't received anything. And for that reason, you know, we said he didn't need to be here at the meeting. And you know, in my mind, you know, I think that's, before I would vote to say we're done, I need them to say we're done. So that's where I'm at this point.
Through the chair, it wasn't my understanding that we had to have Graves sign off on the minor issues that were in front of you at that time. That's all I can say. I mean, I can forward the pictures to Jeff. If you're gonna make him go back out and do another inspection, you know, this thing is dragged on way too long.
But
We're not talking major issues here either.
so my recollection was that were there light posts,
Light fixtures.
fixtures, and there was potentially a delay with National Grid connecting them, correct? Were those addressed?
Yeah, I don't know if Katrina can share the pictures, or if you want me to bring them up, and I can share my screen.
Go ahead and share your screen. You should be able to. If not, I can, but it's easier for you.
Okay, hang on. Give me a second here.
Actually.
No. I'm not having any luck here. Hang on.
Yeah, I got it.
You got it?
Yep. Hold on, I
So
gotta
this
get
is
this.
the discharge coming from the golf course. That's all fresh, larger size riprap. What was there initially was smaller, more like crushed stone. That basically could not withstand the velocities that were coming from the golf course runoff. So basically it's upsized riprap that's been placed in. There's additional pictures That's just a wider picture where we rip wrap the entire basin again. This is the location between two of the units where there was a small sinkhole. They've dressed off. The sinkhole was probably maybe 1.5 feet by a foot, but they've redressed off that whole area and loamed and seeded it. Okay, that would be the south entrance, close to the South Grafton. You can see the streetlight's been installed. Streetlights have been turned on already. That's the hydrant that's at the north entrance. The tall landscaping grass that was planted there basically had that completely covered. So the landscaping company for the development pushed it all back in accordance with the request for from the fire department. And this is the north entrance street light that was installed and has been turned on already.
Okay. So is there any further comment from the board?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. McCusker?
if I can share my screen, I can just show you what was outstanding from Graves as of last meeting.
Please.
You can see this right letter from Graves Engineering here.
Yes.
All right, so this is a comment about substantially in accordance with approved plans. These photos 1 and 2, then he talks about the street lights, talks about the hole at the top of the retaining wall. It's photo 3. Riprap, which is photo 4. And then just generally no issues. So this is just showing the streets have been constructed. This is the hole, and I think Mr. McEwen showed a picture of this fall being repaired. This is the riprap. I think you showed a picture of that being repaired. And that's it. So I guess I'm okay now with that they've met these things. I feel a little bit better if Graves was saying it, but it seems fairly straightforward at this point.
Yeah, and my recollection, and please jump in if anyone remembers this differently or more clearly, that Jeff said that, provided all this stuff was completed, he had no reservations about, approving the final permit. I actually forget what we're.
To the chair, I don't know if you guys, most of the departments that we deal with, they issue like a certificate of completion or a certificate of compliance. I don't know how the 40Bs have been handled in the town previously. If you guys have any recollection, if there was one, then that would be the template I'd go for. But yeah, so basically just that the construction has been completed in conformance with the plans, the approved plans, as well as the decision by the board.
So I know we won't sign a certificate of completion for compliance. So I would be interested in some feedback from Mr. McCusker, but I think the action may be to release or complete it, release the remaining account or holdback.
Through the chair. I'm not sure if Bob can pipe in here a little bit. I'm not sure if the CO for that is being held. Is that how it's being processed, Bob? So I'm not sure what needs to take place so that CO can be released on the last unit.
I'd have to, it is being held. I just don't know if we did the final inspection. But Mr. Chair, on the last 40B, I think it was Flint Pond, there was a procedure put in place to close that out to almost mirror what the planning board has been doing. And we started doing that with Hilltop. So there is a procedure. I think member McCusker will know.
Well, so I want to say that we've directed Providence Road Commons, but it's quite possible we haven't. I know we really were pushing Wheel Rock, and we've been pushing Adams Road for years to work with the development team, you know, and go through the process to close these things out. And really what we, you know, to actually get to that closeout piece, you know, we really need feedback from, you know, Town Hall saying that, you know, everything's been met. You know, there's conservation that possibly needs to be met. You know, I think there's sign off from fire department and other people, and maybe some of this has happened, maybe it hasn't. But, you know, I think as Bob said, there has been a template that has been gone through, and my expectation is that you folks would be working through that to actually get us to that final point. You know, as far as, you know, accepting that the site development as Graves reviews it is done, that's one thing, and I think we can say that, yeah, that's done. And maybe that ties into surety. I don't know in this case. You know, usually the sureties, I'm just a little bit baffled on the surety piece of it. That's usually what happens is Graves saying everything's done ties into the surety, and we would be at a point where we would be releasing everything except the 20% contingency that gets held until the project is completed. But I don't even know how we're tying into this surety. I'm baffled on that.
Go ahead.
What I would offer you is we've been through the process that's been in place in the town for many years, dealing with subdivisions, public roadways and whatnot. The process that we followed on putting this package together has been exactly the same, because obviously we've worked with Jeff Walsh over the many years. Fire department, water department, sewer department, all the different departments have been notified, have received copies of the plans months ago, reviewed them, issued letters of approval that are in your files. So basically everything, all the check marks that need to be checked off relative to what they call a completeness review by the planning board has been followed and completed, and is in the zoning board files. Conservation, everybody.
So I think what we're struggling with is, what exactly are you asking us to do?
I don't know I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not aware, and I'll be honest with you, Peter Maloney, who's the manager, he's not sure how this, I think this might be one of his first 40Bs that he's managed, I guess, maybe in this town. So, you know, I had assumed that the board and the town would have already, they have been through this process on another project, would have a template to be working from. But I will tell you that everything that Mr. McCusker just pointed out has already taken place and has been in your files for months. Conservation.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Berger?
what I think they're asking for is what we'd say close out everything except for the town meeting, accepting the road. what I suggest is next Thursday, I meet with team development. Katrina and I can meet with team development, show the development team, which would be the town planner. We can have the fire department. We can have highway, and have them look at those documents. We can invite Jeff Walsh and see what we have to do to close this project out, because that's what I think they're looking to do, is to close it out just like a subdivision. It's the same process that the planning board does, except that we don't take it to town meeting and have the townspeople vote on the streets.
Because it's staying private, because it's the condo, just like Flint Pond was.
So that would be my suggestion, is next Thursday, I pull together a meeting with all the entities, including Jeff Walsh. Brian, I could even include Brian on it, and we could sit around the table and get an action plan together, and then Brian can present that back here, or Katrina can put some notes together and present it to you, Mr. Chair.
So I guess what I'm hearing is until that happens, there's not real action we can take till that's been confirmed, correct?
That's unacceptable if you guys are gonna put it off until January, to act on it. This is, we've been going round and round on this for months, and I'm not directing it at anybody in particular, but I just think that we've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. The letters are in your files from the various departments. There's nothing that Paul Canoia, Matt Pearson, the Conservation Commission are going to offer you at that meeting that they didn't already put in the letters that are in the file. They reviewed plans. They went out and inspected the site. They actually did the sewers with the sewer department individual. So we're at a point where, like Bob said, the planning department would issue get ready to go to town warrant for acceptance, but this is not going to be a public way. It's a private way. So we're looking to just get this buttoned up and closed out, before the end of the year, for sure, and sooner if possible. I mean, it's just,
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. McCusker?
Yeah, to Mr. McEwen, the key word that you used was planning department. So the problem here is, and if you have a gripe with it, you're going to have to go to the town administrator with this, because it's a battle I've been fighting for over 20 years. The Zoning Board of Appeals has no professional staff. We have no one. So when you typically work with the planning board, you have a planning department, paid professionals that do all this for you. And what I've been telling you, and I can't tell you that I told Providence Road Commons this, but I have made it clear to just about everybody else, you need to work with the town planner and the planning department to get this closed out. And they need to come to us with something that says, these guys have done everything. And until that happens, I'm not going to vote to close something out, because I'm not a professional in this. And I don't know whether everything is done or not. So that's the problem. And if you don't like it, go to the town administrator and tell him that he needs to hire professional staff for the ZBA. And I'll support you in that argument 100%, because we've needed it for over 20 years.
so just to reiterate, that all the departments have checked off on this project. The town planner, Christopher McGoldrick, is the one that walked through the site with myself and Jeff Walsh when we did the final walkthrough, and he issued no comments. So is all you want is him to do is issue a letter? I mean, like I say, we're not going for town acceptance, so it's kind of it's a snafu for all of us. Snafu for you guys because you don't have any permanent staff other than Katrina as your clerk, or professionals. But my client has hired Jeff Walsh to go out and inspect, and Chris McGoldrick has been out there and walked through the whole site with Jeff and myself when Jeff did the final walkthrough. So I don't know what else we can do, Bill.
No, I think it's unfortunate that it probably wasn't communicated, and I probably own that. But as you said, this has dragged on a while, right? I mean, you guys have dragged as well, right? So I think what Bob said is the right thing to do, and it's unfortunate that wasn't communicated earlier. But I think it's a case of just a development team meeting, and with the professionals, and have them basically, and probably it's a case of Chris saying that these guys have done everything that the planning department expects for a project to be considered finalized. I think it's something along those lines. And then, I would also recommend that somebody reach out to Dan Hill from a legal point of view as far as what needs to be done to actually release that money. Because just because Chris says the project's done and the ZBA says project's done, I have no idea if that's going to be substantial enough to release that money. I just have absolutely no clue. So somebody may want to reach out to probably Dan Hill or somebody from a legal point of view, and make sure that we do whatever it is we need to do.
Who's Dan Hill, Bill? That's a new name.
Well, Dan is our 40B attorney, and I think he's the one who wrote this decision. I'm pretty sure he was around when this decision was written. I just don't know what to say about that surety. I just have no clue what that is or how that came to be.
So in terms of that final unit, how does the surety play into that, or the bank account?
I don't believe they're tied together. I believe, I don't know what Bob's got in his files, but basically the developer can't get a CO for the last unit until everything's signed off. So beyond the money that's sitting in a bank account, he's got a unit sitting out there for however many hundreds of thousands of dollars that he can't put on the market right now while the market is booming. He's been sitting on it for quite some time. And we were told if we got this quote unquote completeness review and as-built plans taken care of, and reviews and acceptance by all the different municipal departments, that we're good. And this is the process we've done with Joe Layden and Steve before that. I mean, we've checked all the boxes. And here we are, the fact that we're not going to have a road acceptance to put a final stamp on it from the town. You could never get to that point. You couldn't even enter into the town warrant until all these boxes were checked and we were good with all the departments in town.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Berger?
the only thing that you're missing is what the planning board would write is a report for the town meeting. And that's all we're looking for from professional staff, is to take all these documents that Brian did submit, review them, and then submit a report. Instead of going to town meeting, the report's going to your board.
So with that said, is there any, do we have the ability to do that provisionally? Because I think by all appearances, it looks like, things are complete. We absolutely want to confirm that with, through the process you mentioned. But I also understand, waiting till January for a procedural step, isn't the most efficient thing. And maybe there is no alternative. Maybe that is just, where we are, unfortunately. So I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on other ways.
Sure.
Mr. Adams?
Could the board authorize Bob to let them sell the unit as long as it passes CO, and for now, keep the 50,000 where it is, but at least let them sell the unit? Would that be all right, Bob?
I'd have to read the comprehensive permit, because if it's giving me direction not to issue the last CO before these steps are done, I don't remember what those steps are off the top of my head, then I don't think I could do that
Okay.
unless you amend that special permit.
So,
You just had it
Here's-
on the screen.
It was here, it's gone, Katrina.
it's not there now? Is it here?
Yep, it's there now.
Okay.
D5.
So, condition D5 of the comprehensive permit, which is right here, says that we could not issue the last we can't issue the last certificate of occupancy on the last market rate dwelling until the landscaping improvement plans on the site were done. Where that came into play was we never had landscaping plans. They never gave us landscaping plans. Nothing was ever approved. So that unit was held until they did landscaping and submitted as-built with the landscaping plan on it. I don't know if that makes a difference, but that's where we were, because they had never submitted any landscaping plans and nothing had ever been reviewed by anybody.
So the as-built that they provided, were they approved by Graves?
Yes. They were.
So they've basically satisfied that condition then?
I think they have.
Yeah, I agree. So just in D4, right above it, it speaks to the, what is it, the landscape plan for review and approval by the ZBA. So that has happened, correct?
Yes, and that's noted on the as-built plans.
Yeah, okay. Without, obviously, we don't want to scroll through that whole document now, but does that require a vote of the board, though, if that's been completed? Mr. McCusker?
Yeah, so my question is to Bob, if that's what you're holding on, that doesn't even say a vote is needed by the board.
If you,
I think you can do that.
yeah, if you accepted the plan, which is, I'm hearing that you have, I have to read the comprehensive permit again. I've only looked at it, 2 years ago, but sure. And Brian, if you should, or Katrina, you should take a look to see where we are on inspections. Did we do all don't do it now, but did we do all
No,
the
I have the card.
inspections?
I have the card in front of me. The only thing that has not been done is Tom never did the finals. All the other finals are done.
Okay,
The assessors have been in, everything else has been done except the final building.
so Brian, you should schedule a final inspection for Tom to do a walkthrough, do that final inspection, and then we'll take a look at the comprehensive permit, make sure everything else is satisfied, and then we can release that CO.
And you don't need to wait till January for that.
Not if that's the only condition that is affecting the last market rate unit, no.
But, look, we scheduled the next continuance for Grafton Grill in January, partially because, they're not in any rush, and it's probably going to take that long for them to get to their next step. As a matter of fact, I expect that they'll probably continue a couple times after that. We can certainly have a meeting in December. If it turns out that we need to meet to do X, Y, and Z, close out Providence Road, then, we certainly can do that. And that doesn't have to be scheduled tonight, right? I mean, the chair can schedule a meeting, it's at the discretion of the chair to schedule a meeting. So, if next week we realize that we need to meet to do such and such, the chair can schedule a meeting if it makes sense to do so. And, I don't think any of us are trying to, to hold people up here. And I don't know, I certainly recognize there's some serious money in a hot market. I mean, I'd like to see you guys get that unit sold as well. So.
All right.
Through the chair.
Yes.
So, given what we all have been educated about this process here tonight, I guess what I want to know, one is obviously I'll be right on the phone to Peter to get the final inspection done on the unit tomorrow. Secondly, I want to know, do we need to do this departmental meeting and get a letter issued from the town planner and/or the planning board, since the planning board wasn't involved in the process? Okay, Mr. McCusker mentioned the planning board, and that's why I'm bringing it up. I want to definitively know if we've got to get a letter from somebody, as the clearinghouse operative here, who it is, so that we don't come back and say, oh no, we wanted the letter from a vote of the planning board. So yeah, those are a couple things I'd like to know. And then secondly, if we can have the departmental meeting next week, I would offer that since we have Thanksgiving coming up 2 weeks ahead, I don't know if you guys could I don't know, does this need to be notified, published notice? It's not really a public hearing. Could we do this the week of the 18th?
So the only issue is there's not going to be a team development meeting next Thursday because we're closed next Thursday.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
right.
going to bump that up. I'm going to
You're gonna
bump
move it to
that.
Wednesday?
I'm going to try it. It doesn't have to be Thursday, or I'm going to try to get a team development meeting just to get this on the plate so we can start
Okay.
working on this closeout.
All right.
So the only thing I would caution you is we've seen one piece of the comprehensive permit that talks to issuing the final, I can't remember what it was.
Final CO.
Yeah. So there could be other conditions in there, I assume. So I would recommend reviewing that. And, we'll do that as well. But it seems to me like you shouldn't need to come back before the board to have that issue.
No, that's right. Absolutely. I'm gonna read through the comprehensive permit and see if there's any other conditions that stop me from issuing the CO. But the other subject that we're talking about is closing the whole 40B project out. That's what we're having the team development meeting for, is to have somebody, professional staff, write a report to give to the zoning board of appeals that everything else has been met.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. McCusker?
Yeah, so just to Mr. McEwen, just to clarify, what I said was when the planning board acts in their normal capacity with a traditional 40A development, so that was my reference to the planning board, they get input from the planning department, their professional staff. That was my reference to planning. If there's something the planning board typically does, we need to fill that role in a case of a 40B. But that's not even really relevant at this point. But my main point was we need some professional staff to tell us that the process is completed, and that's really what's missing. And and I think that that others have said, there could be other things in that comprehensive permit, and so hopefully somebody's gone through and read that and made sure that everything that it requires is done as well. But that's all part of professional staff's input that I think that I need.
So I think the bottom line here is it looks like there's a path to getting that final CO without coming back for the board. The closeout may, or likely will require that, but this would allow you to market that final unit without needing to come back for the board.
So you anticipate that we wouldn't have to be back in front of the board to get the final closeout as well? Assuming a letter gets drafted by the town planner after this interdepartmental meeting, saying that everything has been satisfied?
So that I don't know, and I just haven't been around enough.
My gut sense is you probably will. It seems like the other 40Bs, at some point we need to kind of get together. We need to get together and say you're done. It seems is what's happened with some of these other 40Bs. So I think at some point you're gonna have to come back to us. But that's why I think it's important. What I said, somebody needs to investigate that surety. What exactly needs to happen to get that released? Somebody mentioned that part of it may be for conservation. So do they need to do something to release their part? I have no idea. I just have no idea on that. So somebody needs to look into that.
The conservation part, I believe, it may have already been taken care of because we were issued the certificate of compliance from conservation already. And that was the only stipulation on that, was that money be held until their final certificate was issued.
Okay.
So I don't know, but I would expect that we need to get together. I expect that we need to vote to actually close it out.
Okay.
So are we looking, I mean, this isn't like a public hearing, so we're not looking to continue. I guess when the ducks are in order, we contact Katrina and say, listen, we need to get the board back together.
Yeah, and I think we could do that. I don't know what the required notice is on that. Do we need any notice on that, Katrina?
No.
Just regular business.
Well,
right?
I mean, just a typical 48-hour notice of an open meeting.
Yeah, I just have to have 48 hours to publish the agenda, but I mean, you could tell me Monday, you guys want to have a meeting on Thursday, as long as I can get the agenda up in 48 hours. I have to have it up by 4 o'clock on Tuesday for our meeting on Thursday.
So, I think, I know I'd be willing to, schedule a pretty quick meeting to address that if it needs to come back to the board, which I'm assuming it does.
Sounds good from my end.
Okay. Any other comments from board? All right.
Look forward to hearing from you, Bob.
So Brian, have Peter or somebody call because I can't put Tom's inspection in because it's got to be the next day. So either you or Peter has to call for that final inspection. We can schedule it for Monday.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right, so the next order of business is Elm Rock Estates bond reduction.
Gentlemen and ladies, I'm going to bid you all a good night. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Night,
Night,
Bob.
Bob.
Good night.
So, Steve, you're asking for a bond reduction, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, good evening, members. On behalf of Wheel Rock LLC for Elm Rock Estates. Following up from last month's meeting, where there was not a lot of clarity on, how the zoning board was going to apply planning board kind of procedures and policies that Jeff Walsh had highlighted. I spoke with the town planner, Chris Goldrick, Chris acknowledged to me by telephone that, yes, that is the planning board's policy to hold 20% of the total construction value until such time that the road is accepted. And then it goes even deeper that they can hold it for 18 more months following determination of completeness, et cetera. But I think the main point that he indicated to me was that his opinion was that the ZBA had the discretion, being a 40B, to not follow that. And he didn't necessarily have an opinion on what they should or shouldn't do, other than the fact that he said they have the discretion, as an independent board under a comprehensive permit. So, I'm not sure if anyone on the zoning board side, or if Katrina had any luck speaking with Chris, if Chris reported anything back to Katrina. Listening to that last agenda item, if we need to go to a department head meeting, development team meeting, maybe that's what we need to do as well. But I guess I'll leave it there and see what sort of information you have learned since the last meeting, if any.
Well, you have to go to town meeting, correct?
We would ultimately be seeking town meeting approval for road acceptance, yes. But
I guess I understand we have the discretion to do something different, but why would we, I guess?
Well, I mean, our position is that this is not a planning board, conventional subdivision. There's nothing in our comprehensive permit conditions or findings that indicate anything about following planning board procedures with regards to reductions in surety. In fact, there is a condition in the comprehensive permit H1. It says the ZBA's engineering consultant shall review the construction costs and recommend adjustments based on practices, any and prevailing wage requirements. So in other words, adjustments to the surety can be made. As have occurred all along. It's and no disrespect to Jeff Walsh. I work with Jeff all the time, and I have a lot of respect for Jeff. He took it upon himself, because he does a lot of that sort of things for the planning board, to impose that. And I guess my client's gone along with it. I don't think they realized that 20% was going to be held, for up to almost 18 more months from now, or in the very near future, up to 18 more months. It just doesn't seem reasonable to us. Jeff's last review indicates that there's about $17,000 worth of work outstanding, which is really more administrative type work. Yet, $323,000 is being held.
But that doesn't account for, snow clearing or maintenance.
Well, the applicant's responsible for that. It's right now, it's their road, so they're responsible for that. They've done it. They did it last winter. They're scheduled to do it, lined up to do it this winter. There's no homeowners association, with this 40B subdivision development, so the applicant does have the sole responsibility to do that, as they've done, last winter.
Mr. Yeomans?
Yeah, isn't the surety held to let the road winter over and to ensure that it goes through a full period to see that there's not any, that there aren't any problems with it?
That's not an uncommon practice in many communities. There's no condition in this comprehensive permit that's the case. There's no subdivision regulation that indicates that in Grafton that I found. And let's just say, for discussion's sake, that's what we wanted to do, and my client was okay with that. I don't think that that amount would be 323,000. That amount could be the value of the top coat that was in the last bond estimate, which was $33,810. You know, and then we could add a contingency to that. So, you know, we're not asking to go to zero. You know, we're asking to go to, you know, a reasonable figure. You know, maybe that figure is 3 times the amount that Graves recommends, you know, for the remaining construction value. But we're just asking that it not be, you know, 20% of a very inflated number, 20% of 1.6 million, which was way more than the cost of that construction of the road. And I understand it's prevailing wage, but you know, $323,000 for a project that is complete is, you know, like I said, and maybe we do need to, if you haven't heard from Chris, as I asked him to do, maybe I do need to schedule, you know, a development team meeting and attend. But again, we know we this is a follow up from last meeting. You know, we're here, we're on the agenda to resume the discussions.
Mr. McCusker?
Yeah, Steve, you know, did we waive section 3.3.12.2 of the subdivision rules and regulations? And I'm going to share my screen. So
You did not.
So, you know, I think that's really where we're going to get a problem here, because 3.3.12.2 is pretty clear that that the town holds 20% until road acceptance. And with all due respect to the town planner, he's mistaken. You know, we don't have the right to waive this just because it's 40B. We could have back when we wrote the permit, but we didn't. So this is the bylaw. This is the rule. And I don't think we have any opportunity to deviate from that. And I don't think there's anything even to talk about, quite frankly. The planning board does this with every single one of their subdivisions, and they have to, because it says it right there in the rules. And unless we waive this, which we didn't, we have to follow it. I don't see where we have any other choice.
So for clarification, Bill, you're taking the position that all subdivision regulations that were not waived are in effect for this comprehensive permit?
Yeah. Any bylaw that wasn't waived, so zoning bylaws, subdivision rules and regs, yeah. And that's kind of a tack that we've always taken with our comprehensive permits is, if you don't ask for the waiver, if we don't grant the waiver, then it's there, and we don't grant blanket waivers, right? We've had some people come in and want us to waive, you know, everything, and we've never done that. So that's my position.
Any other comments from the board? So, Steve, I just don't see why we would go against what the planning board would do here.
Yeah, I guess my position is that, you know, the comprehensive permit touches on sureties and reductions in sureties without any reference to the section, you know, with not as much detail as the subdivision regs provide, without any reference to the subdivision regs. So in my mind, there's kind of a conflict, you know, in the comprehensive permit and what what the subdivision regulations say. You know, it's probably not the forum to do so, but you know, when I read through the subdivision regulations on this topic, you know, it's something I'll certainly take up with the development team. I've been doing this for a long time. I think that actually probably contradicts Mass General Law. Now, there's a statute that says once determination of completeness is granted, surety has to be released within, you know, after 45 days. Can't be held for more than 45 days. So, but again, probably not the forum for that. Okay. I mean, I'm not looking to pick a fight. I'm, here on looking to do what I think is right for my client. You guys have always been fair and reasonable, and you always, and still are. So, I guess maybe I'll circle back with Chris and see what my client wants to do. But I guess that's really all I have. I understand your position.
Mr. Yeomans?
No,
No? Okay. Okay. So, you can let Katrina know if you want to get on the agenda for the next meeting, if there's some development, that changes the way we should look at this.
Okay. Sounds great.
All right.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right. So
I have a question for Katrina. Don't we need to accept the petition on this 4 Gloucester Street where she is withdrawing it without prejudice? Do we have to vote on that?
Yes.
I believe we do.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we do need to vote to allow her to withdraw without prejudice. I'd also say before that, we really need to address 244 Worcester Street. I believe we actually have a couple of attendees who are probably here for that. It's unfortunate. We probably should have communicated earlier on that that's going to be continued. But we also need to vote on that. They essentially have asked for a continuance. So, we need to vote on continuing 244 Worcester Street, and we need to vote on allowing for Gloucester to withdraw the variance.
Okay, so entertain a motion to continue case 876, 244 Worcester Street.
So moved.
Second?
So we need to verbalize, especially because I think there's people on the phone or attending, we need to verbalize that we're continuing it to January 7th, January 6th.
So here's the thing about that. They need to have a decision from us before January.
No, they don't. No, that came up at the planning board meeting, and they've got till March sometime.
Okay. I'm just telling you what I was told by the powers
Who told
that
you
be.
that? Who told you that?
Nicole Drake.
Huh?
Chris.
That exact question came up at the planning board meeting for this case, and it was stated they got till March sometime.
Okay, then that was never relayed to me, because in the initial meetings we've had, I was always told that stuff had to be done by January, because we were on a timeline. So nobody told me anything different. So I was just repeating what I was told.
Mr. Chairman, I think we're okay. It probably is something that should be double checked.
I'll double check tomorrow with Chris.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep.
So what would be the urgency for us for January 6th?
The only thing I was told was they actually came in last Thursday for the team development meeting, and they pulled me in there because it was all the boards, because it was me, it was planning, everybody. They were saying they needed to know before January, because I guess their offer, if it's not finalized by January, they could lose their right to purchase it. And that's what I was told, was that decisions had to be made by the boards by January. Now, if it's been changed, nobody bothered to tell me. So that's all that was the last I heard and the last I knew.
Well, they've asked us to continue. Where's their letter? What does it say?
It's just an email. It says, please let us to continue to your next regularly scheduled hearing.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah. They didn't give me a date or a time. They just said our next regularly scheduled hearing.
Well,
Then I would suggest that you let them know tomorrow that it's January 6th. That's what they requested. And that's what we've granted in this.
So, entertain an amended motion to continue case 876, 244 Worcester Street to the January 6th zoning board of appeals meeting.
What
7
time?
PM.
Okay.
7 PM.
At 7 p.m.
Okay.
I think Kay had made that motion
Yes.
Yep.
and I had seconded.
Okay. So we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes,
Mr. McCusker,
Yes.
Chairman votes yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Motion made and passed. Yes, Mr. McCusker.
through you to our secretary, I'd recommend that the minutes be very clear that no testimony was heard during this case tonight.
Okay.
That might be important because right now Ms. DeRozier is a voting member, is not here. I think I want
Okay.
to make sure that the minutes are very clear that no testimony was heard or discussed.
Only voting on the
this case.
continuance. Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So is there a motion to allow the withdrawal of case number 877 for Gloucester Road?
yes, I have a motion. I make a motion that we accept the petitioner's withdrawal without prejudice, the request of the variance from Victoria Simler for Gloucester Road dated 9/7/21, and that we allow her to withdraw without prejudice.
So moved.
You're seconded. Yep.
All right, so we'll do a roll call vote on the motion to allow case 877 withdrawal without prejudice. Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes,
Mr. McCusker,
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. Motion's passed. So the final order of business is the minutes, and
I think there's a question in the Q&A.
thank you. So the question in the Q&A is, what is the team development meeting and is it public? Who wants to speak to that?
The team development meeting is usually a meeting held on Thursday afternoons at 2:00 with all the department heads. Used to be held in person where anybody could walk in if they had some sort of proposal where they needed to talk to a bunch of different departments so they could get all the answers at one time and figure out, do they have to go to planning? Do they have to go to conservation? Do they have to come to ZBA? What they can do to tweak it to make sure they don't have to do all that. So they started the team development meetings, I want to say about 3 years ago. They are now done by Zoom, so people have to call in and basically get on the agenda. They're really not public, but they're public, but they're not. So, I mean, if there's one scheduled, you would just have to find out what the Zoom link is for that meeting on that day. If nobody has called in, they don't have a meeting scheduled at all.
So if someone wanted to listen in on a meeting for a particular project, they would not be able to do that unless
They'd have to, if they would call and find out if they're having one on that day and there is one scheduled, they could get on to be able to zoom in and hear it. But normally it's not considered a public hearing. It's just a meeting. It's like if they had a department head meeting or if they had a building meeting. That's pretty much what it is.
Okay.
Chairman?
Mr. McCusker?
Yeah, so, you know, developers can walk in and talk to the building inspector, they can talk to the planning department, they can talk to anyone in town hall at any time, just like any one of us can, or the person asking this question can walk in and talk to anyone in town hall. And really all that the development team meetings are is just an extension of those discussions. They have absolutely nothing to do with the public hearings. The planning board is not participating in these meetings. The ZBA is not participating in these meetings. There are times when maybe one member of a board will be. I have myself participated in these meetings as, you know, an individual, but, you know, they're not part of the public hearing process. So, you know, they're just part of the process of development in town, where it provides an opportunity for a developer to speak with multiple members of the town development team at one time.
At one time, instead of having to run all over the place, is basically what they did.
Okay. So I think that answers the second question here. Can you see what's discussed? I think I would recommend going to the town hall and you know, asking some questions and.
Yep.
Perfect example is Steve Belfiore. He's had a couple pieces of property in town he's looked at to try and do different things with. So he's gotten on the team development meeting and said, look, if I bought this piece of property, could I put this in it? And he's got everybody, you know, he's got the town planner who could tell him. He's got Bob who could tell him. He's got Leah if there's any implications with conservation. That way he doesn't have to run around to all the different departments on different days. He's got everybody in one fell swoop that he can answer questions to. And then if they need more stuff, he will meet with that department individually.
And apologies to anyone that was listening to the meeting, waiting for the 244 Worcester Road. All right, so can we skip the minutes?
I think we should kill them. And I'm ready to go right now. I can give you a 3-minute, you know, snapshot on it, and they're done.
You guys.
I'd like to, I haven't had a chance to review them. I'd like to have that opportunity. Bill, if you have, I mean, in the past, I've submitted my changes to Katrina, you know, so at least
I can do that tomorrow.
But I mean, we do still need to be aware of what those changes are so we can talk about them, but I haven't had a chance to review them. And
Yeah, mine are just, you know, minor changes and edits and.
Yeah, I mean, because I was chair at that time, I really would like to be able to review them.
Okay.
Moving forward, I won't have as much
Okay.
concern.
Don't speak so fast. At least that's how tonight went. All right, so I guess the only thing left is a motion to close the meeting.
I think
I move that
would
we end
prefer
it.
to Mr. McCusker to have this opportunity.
I make a motion that we end this evening's meeting.
Second.
All right, so Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes.
Mr. McCusker,
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. Motion passed. Thanks, everyone.